Oh my gosh. Hey, Crazy Dre Podcast. Well, welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is your main man, a.k.a. Crazy Crockett, a.k.a. Andrews Podcast. Folks, I am here. I'm back. All baseball, a little bit basketball. We have to start with the Yankees. You know, I don't know how to express my thought about the Yankees. I get why people don't like the Yankees, and this is a good reason why people don't like the Yankees. They basically scored 50 runs against the Brewers in a 3-game weekend. Well, they skipped one day. They skipped a Friday game because there was no Friday game. They had a Thursday, Saturday, Sunday game against the Brewers. Game 1, ordered 2, not a big deal. Only Austin Wells hit a home run for the Yankees. First time a catcher for the Yankees, leadoff hitter, first pitch, gone. That's amazing. Didn't know that. That's pretty cool. 4-2, the Yankees win. But then on on Saturday, March 29, it was Brewers 9 and the Yankees 20. And the Yankees hit 9 home runs, and the Brewers hit 1 to make 10 home runs. That's a lot of home runs. Aaron Judge hits 3 home runs, which is, I don't think it's amazing. I think he's just a big guy, right? He's a big guy. A lot of people make a big deal out of it. But this is something about the bat. So it looks like an MIT guy decided to work with the Yankees, which I've heard that he was associated with the Yankees a couple of years ago and now is with the Marlins some sort. And basically what it was that Bellinger was not hitting at all with the Cubs last year. So they changed the sweet spot to the bat. So wherever Bellinger and Aaron Judge and Chisholm Jr. Hit the ball the most consistent, not at the barrel of the bat, and sometimes closer to the hands based on who's got the bat. But basically, you got a torpedo bat. And wherever the hitter hits the ball, where he hits the most consistent on the spot of the bat is where the most power of the bat's going to be. And that's basically what happened. And I tell you what, if this wasn't the Yankees and it was the Chicago Cubs, it was Milwaukee Brewers, it was Arizona Diamondbacks, automatically that would have the league and everyone else would have said that they're cheating. To make it clear, the Yankees did have permission to use these bats. So before anyone goes out there and say, "Well, that's it's a conspiracy, whatever," but the league allowed it, and I just think that that's not good for baseball in itself. It's really not good because if you're already the Yankees and you already have a baseball field where the ball leaves the ballpark quite a bit, and then you hit 9 home runs at home, it's not real. It's 20-9. That's a football play. That's a football score. That's 20-9. That's like 3 field goals for the Green Bay Packers. And be like 3 field goals, and then the Giants or the Jets, whoever you want to pick and choose that team to play, is 20. So it's like 2 touchdowns, and then 3 field goals. 2 field goals to make it 20. So I can't even do my own math on this thing. But I'm telling you the truth. This is just bizarre how MLB is allowing the Yankees to use a bat that other teams may not know about yet, and now when you go to the Yankees or you have to go up to bat against the Yankees or pitch against the Yankees, you know their bats are kind of juiced up. So you either hit the guy or you throw a lot of balls. I mean, now you have to really literally think about that hitter's sweet spot. And maybe that would make takes adjustment to do, but I don't like this rule about how MLB is allowing the Yankees do this. And this is something that if you want people to watch baseball, then stop making teams and players allowed to cheat. Because if you're going to do the torpedo bat, then you should then allow Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, any of the guys that juiced up for the steroid era of the '90s. I mean, if you're going to let that happen, then you might as well just let Barry Bonds make it to the Hall of Fame for that reason. I mean, you're already cheating. If he's already if Barry Bonds was cheating to hit home runs to compete with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, and you need ratings in this era, then you're just it's the same thing. Basically, it's the same thing. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think it's ridiculous. I see other teams scoring 10 to 2, New York Mets against Miami Marlins. You got Cincinnati Reds against, I don't even know who they're playing, but Texas Rangers. It's 14-1, I think, at this point. Cincinnati. So it may not even be the bat. It may be just the guys who's hitting the ball. So I don't know if that's true or not, but don't make it easier for the Yankees just to have it their way because you need ratings. If you want ratings, then you want better pitching and allow the pitchers to go 6 innings instead of 5.5, or make them just play the game. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to the Tigers. The Tigers went 0-3 in against LA Dodgers. I tell you, Struble had a good game. Jack Flaherty looked, you know, I guess the announcers were saying that he was not hitting his spots and missing his mark here and there. But I mean, if you're not going to be able to hit against against the Dodgers, they have, good pitching, and Detroit left 18 runners on base before they scored their first run with a runner on base. So a lot of that has to do with the Tigers' injuries, with Patrick Meadows, with now Gilbert Torres is out with some injury, 15-day injury report. So the guy who's going to take his spot is Malloy, who debuted last year. He did an excellent job. So you got Patrick Meadows, Matt Verlin, now Gilbert Torres, and and Jackson Joe will be pitching against Seattle Mariners. So that should be that. This game should give a clarity to Detroit's year. I don't think you can clearly dictate, what Tigers were going to be like against the Dodgers. The Dodgers is just another level of baseball. With Otani and Freddie Freeman and a couple of the Mookie Betts that hit a home run to beat Detroit. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of things that went on. Spencer Torkerson's been watching the ball pretty well, not going after bad pitches. Uh, so that's one thing, a good thing about the Tigers right now, that Spencer is actually seeing the ball, hitting a home run or two. Um, so that's promising. Um, and then I want to talk about the Detroit Pistons. Now, as you guys know, the Detroit Pistons is known to be a tough team, like a tough, uh, like a tough era of teams. We are the Detroit bad boys of the 80s. I think that we get that bad reputation because of the 80s, the way the 80s played out. And we probably got a really bad um, rep based on Isaiah Thomas not shaking Michael Jordan's hand after the game, after the game four when the Bulls went to win the NBA Finals the first time in 1991. But I question this era of toughness. Detroit in the bad boy era was given to them the way that the league was played. Um, then in 2004, 2003, 2002, that team wasn't really, I don't think that team was tough. We were just stronger. And we could, with Ben Wallace and Chauncey Billups and Tayshaun Prince and Richard Hamilton, and those guys, we could push the guys out of that box, and we could exchange uh, players in and out, and we could move players in and out because we were long and lanky. And this era of Detroit Pistons, I mean, we've always had Isaiah Stewart, and Isaiah Stewart, to a lot of us, or to a lot of people who are Detroit fans, think he's a tough SOB, a great player. Um, I think he's got a lot of energy. I don't think that his energy is always a good energy. I think he gets technical fouls at the wrong time of the game. Clearly, that's what happened with the Timberwolves. Um, yeah, I know that Nas Reed was the one. I mean, Nas Reed was the one who was pointing fingers at Ron Holland, and I think Ron Holland again is a type of player who doesn't take no for an answer or no BS for anything. But again, that takes away from the idea of playing the game and being tough and being on the court. I think when you're trying to create a like credit, and you don't want someone to push you over in a way that it doesn't really affect the team, it affects yourself, then you're doing yourself a harm and you're doing the team harm as well. I think Ron Holland is a very immature player right now. And I think even though a lot of people, like myself, as a Piston fan, even though JB Bickerstaff was kicked off, was ejected at this game as well for something that the assistant head coach for the Timberwolves, Pablo, said something to one of his players. You stick together. JB didn't like what he said, what he heard Pablo say. But again, that's something that even as a head coach, I think that you need to kind of back off a little bit, uh, lead by example. I know with Chuck Daly, and he didn't run on the court. He was yelling at the referees. He was yelling at his own players. He was doing stuff like that. But he wasn't the one who's trying to create fights, or there's ways to stick up for your players and not get kicked off the team or kicked off or ejected. So I think that's something that's, I don't know, I don't like that at all. I think in today's basketball, that era of toughness isn't the same it was in the 1980s and the early 90s. I know that for sure. So I don't. I think when you hear ESPN and those guys talk about the Detroit Bad Boys are back, I tell you this: Cade Cunningham doesn't have that persona. He doesn't. He may yell at the referees here and there, but I can't see him throwing punches at, at any other player. Excuse me. But and that's why I don't think that's true. Chauncey Billups didn't throw punches at any player. He was a tough guy at certain situations, a big shot. That's what Chauncey was about. But Chauncey didn't have to throw punches. I mean, Rashid, he didn't. I mean, he would play with your mind more than your physical uh, aptitude. He would have ways to play with your head or the opponent's head and make them think or rethink or overanalyze. That's something that worked real well. For Detroit, 2004 season when they won the championship, it was a team effort. Everyone was on the same page. Everyone played the same type of defense. Everyone rotated to to a certain spot of the court when certain plays were being called for the offense of the other team. And then Detroit would rotate their defense based on that way. In today's NBA, in today's Pistons, someone's calling you a name, someone's, threatening you with their finger or threatening you with their life or whatever it was, you're really going to start a fight on the court. It just makes it look like uh, Malice at the Palace against the Pacers, and it's not a great way to actually um, uh, look at the game anymore. You're not There's no respect for that type of playing anymore. And I get it. Isaiah Stewart's young, and I get it. Ron Holland's young, and Sasser got kicked out too. So he's a little tough little guy too. But there's ways of playing the game without being ejected and without throwing punches. And you have to realize you're playing 82 games in the playoffs. So if you don't play the playoff games and you're being suspended because you have too many technicals, like Isaiah Stewart may have, then you're just hurting the team. You just are. And we're not an experienced enough team to get the guys off the bench and everyone else to set it up going. There's not enough of that yet. I will say this. I do think that Detroit should do this, though. Kay Cunningham's point guard, have Malik Beasley be shooting guard, have Tim Hardaway off the bench right behind them, or even I would even put Sasser right behind Malik Beasley or Kay Cunningham. Um, Ron Holland, maybe. I've heard he's got good hands, but again, his immaturity is probably why he's not the sixth man coming off the bench. Tim Hardaway, yeah, I think he is a decent player. He's a little older. I just think that there's games in where Tim Hardaway only scores 6 to 7 points a game, every game, for like, say, 3 or 4 games in a row, and then he breaks out to get 12 or 10 points and sometimes 15. That's just not really I don't like that. I'd rather have Malik Beasley, Kay Cunningham, then have Sasser come off the bench, and then I would have Tim Hardaway come off the bench. That's my rotation on that of the guards. Now, when Jaden Ivey comes back, which I'm questioning if he should come back, but if he does come back, he probably should come off the bench and just so that the rotation of the team isn't affected. Because if you have him come off, if you have him start towards the end of the of the year or in the playoffs, the chemistry of the game could um, uh, be very affected in a bad way. I like Malik Beasley's shooting. I like his 3-point shots. I like the way he drives the basket. I like Sasser's um, uh, ability to create shots and make shots himself. Um, I like Jalen Duran, Jaden Duran. I love his energy, his toughness, and that's what Detroit really needs to be focusing more with that type of toughness. Score underneath the basket, get your rebounds, transition the ball. Uh, I am a little concerned about Kate Cunningham being hurt. Um, he's got a calf energy. He's got a calf injury. Tobias Harris, I don't know what's going on with him, but again, he's an older player, so he's going to need his nights off at times. But there you go, folks. That's my take on the New York Yankees. That's my take on the uh, Detroit Pistons and the Detroit Tigers. So if you enjoy the podcast, I'd like to thank you for listening. Um, you can follow me on YouTube, Patreon. You can follow me on Apple Podcasts. You can find me on any Spotify. If you see me on YouTube, subscribe, channel, spread the word. Peace, love, and I'm out of here.